Shirt show. All right, let's go.
Shirt show! Talking shirt! Shirt show! Just talking shirt! Shirt show! Talking shirt! Shirt show! Shirt, man!
All right! Episode 245 of Shirt Show! We're talking with Shamus from Raider Graphics in Minnesota! Let's go!
Well, hello. Good morning. Today, my co-host is the wonderful Christina.
Hi.
Decided to have you on with me today because our guest today is Shamus from
Minnesota.
Raider Graphics, Minnesota. It's pretty cool because he is a teacher of a screen printing class in high school, but it's not what you would think as far as like a manual and some crappy stuff in the corner. It's like a full-on multiple auto shop in a high school.
Mm-hmm.
So
and they have a full cadence of curriculum structure. He'll tell us all about the shop and stuff. But my thought is it's going to help a lot of listeners consider how they train, because he has created a system from the education perspective.
which is why I wanted to have you on, because you used to be a teacher. So
Yeah.
well, let's get into talking about our buds, and then we'll get Shamus on.
Sounds good.
It all starts with a screen. Whether it's new stretches or restretches, Frank and his team do it the best. They also offer custom racking and a wide range of print supplies. To find out more, go to graphicscreenfashion.com, FFFFF,
Rank.com.
or
GreatFuckingScreens.com.
there you go.
No G. I'll say it every time.
Cleaning screens is no fun, but EasyWay makes it way more funner. Their line of eco-friendly chemicals will make reclaiming screens a whole lot easier. Check them out at easyway.com. EasyWay.
The easiest way.
Yeah, hell yeah, it is. Graphics is the source for production-ready digital art and remote art staffing. They can help any size shop from just starting out to enterprise level. Looking to add a hero to your art department? Check out graphicsource.com.
I love them. I work with them every day.
Yeah. I was just talking to Tyler about how they're onboarding more Graphic Source people, so that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
SNS has been our go-to apparel source since day one. Discover an extensive range of apparel that blends innovative design with unbeatable comfort. Their customer service and quality control are the best out there. Check them out at ssactivewear.com. By far the best to order from. If you haven't tried the American Apparel 1301 garment dyed shirt yet, you are missing out. The heavyweight cotton shirt has a rough and tumble vibe of your favorite concert tee. With a wide ribbed collar and that vintage faded look, the shirt will definitely be in your weekly wardrobe rotation. Ask your rep to get some for your showroom today. Great shirt. We printed all the happy hour shirts on it. It's been a big hit. Mm-hmm. For over 90 years, Stahls has been the leading choice among apparel decorators for their heat transfer materials, heat press equipment, and custom transfer services. Not only do they offer some of the best products, but they are also looking to innovate and educate our industry on all things heat press. Head over to stahls.com to order your transfers and check them out on YouTube to get taught a thing or two.
Varsity started as a varsity sport shop, so jerseys were something that we still do to this day, but we always ordered the pre-cut numbers. So we would have the run of numbers. And then also we always had the American flag transfers on hand for both directions, both
Yeah,
sleeves.
we have a lot of those. We just got a sample pack in because of ISS. I wanted to get some of the new stuff, and they have like a ton of stuff now. Like it's obscene, like how many options.
That Stitch one that they had that looks like embroidery, but is not, was wild. I have several pictures because it was nearly unbelievable how from afar, like how much it looked like embroidery.
Yeah, that's crazy. They got some cool stuff, and they're making some upstate stuff for us right now. So I'm excited to see that when it comes in.
Sick.
Again, if you are watching on YouTube, like it, subscribe to the show. If you are watching or if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, maybe leave us a review or take a picture and post what you're doing on Instagram or Facebook. That would be cool and helpful. Yeah. I mean, we do this. If you could help us out, that'd be sweet. Okay, today our buddy Shamus Barrett from Raider Graphics. What's up, sir?
Morning.
Morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. I was just getting started here.
Yeah.
It's
Is school happening, or like what's going on? Because
we're in the middle of a school day. I don't have any classes in the morning today, so it's nice that I don't have to work around that. But this is kind of one of those scenarios where it just kind of worked to fit it in.
Perfect.
Yeah.
How does that work for you? Do you just get in the morning and get stuff prepared and kind of whatever, or do you let them come in and do the shop, click, turn things on kind of thing?
It kind of varies. If we have like a heavier workload, a lot of times I have, like things prepped and ready to go. If we're trying to, hit the ground running, we'll get kids in and, we'll be like, hey, dryer's on, press is set up. Like, let's just go. Or even like, we'll already start printing and it's like, all right, we're like running stuff, like jump in, help with whatever. If it's a little slower, a lot of times I'll be like, here, take this. You can set it up on press, get everything started up. It's just kind of varies to, day to day. Everything's a little different.
Right. Well, I heard about you from my buddy Kevin from Chromaline.
Yes.
And again, love Kevin. He has a great pick. But he was telling me about your shop, and I was like, "Oh, dude, we have to have this on. This is amazing," because we've done so many episodes where people say, "Oh, I learned how to screen print in high school," or "I learned how to screen print. I took a college course." I don't have that in my high school, and I don't know any high schools near me that even remotely offer screen printing.
I've only heard of like 2 in the country. This is one of them. And the other one was a guy that was trying to start up a program, I think in the East Coast somewhere. I'm not sure quite where it was, but he did not have anything quite like this.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of times what it ends up being like a class, like within art. You go to art and they're like, okay, we're going to do a screen printing for like 3 weeks. They bring a speedball kit in.
Yes.
Whatever. I know like in my art class, like right before I graduated, I think they just got like new Macs in and they were so pumped on it. And they were teaching kids, like Photoshop. And that's pretty much as far as I think it goes in my high school is like, oh, we'll teach you how to use Photoshop, maybe for printing, but then that's it. So my thing is, and this is getting a little bit off of this, is I don't know if this is across the country thing. I'm sure it's named other things, but here it's called BOCES. So it's like you leave high school at like 9th or 10th grade and you go to BOCES and you can learn a trade. Like you can learn welding or be an electrician or all these other things.
Maybe like an apprenticeship kind of thing.
Yeah. So you can go to this trade school basically instead of.
Oh, sorry. That's the name of the trade school?
Yeah. It's called BOCES.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
it's capital letters. It stands for something.
It stands for something, but yeah.
Nobody knows what it is.
I just Googled. It's a New York State.
Okay, so it's just New York. But anyway, I'm in talks with them now of potentially like setting up a print shop there because they have like an advanced graphics class, but they don't have like printing. So what they've been doing is they've just been taking kids on field trips to like print shops here and there. And I'm like, let's just get a print shop there. Like, let's set one up.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be like crazy. I mean, you can do pretty basic. What I've got here, you can see the end of the dryer here. This is like pretty monstrous for a school. Yeah. But it's good exposure. I mean, it at this point funds itself. So it's always kind of nice to have.
Yeah. So can you give us, I guess, some background on how, like, when the school decided to add this program?
Can we start with his background first? Let's find some about Shamus.
You got to get to when he comes in the picture.
Okay, so which one do you want? You want me first, or do you want the program?
Give me the program first, and then when you come in.
Okay, so program-wise, the original guy that started this up was a teacher here in 1991. He was hired on in 1991. He decided at the time there was, they had like one manual press and they were stretching screens, by hand. They were stapling them onto wooden frames, those kinds of things. And he came in and said, hey, this is an opportunity for us to experience some growth. And he had actually sold a business ahead of time, I believe. So he had some insights into how to run it and how to be profitable.
A screen printing business?
I know it was graphics. It might have been less screen printing, but I know he had kind of some ideas on how to run a business.
So my question is, was he a teacher? Was he like...
He was a teacher, yes.
Okay, so what was the class?
So I think it was called like photographics is what he called it.
Okay.
And so they would use like, they would use emulsions to create films and things like,
So they
I
were
don't
just
even
using
know.
like they were just trying to do like print medium, like where they could print on
Anything print.
all different things.
Like,
Yes.
He was
because
really
the way
excited
that
because
Polaroids work is Polaroid is a version of emulsion.
yeah, yep. So, but he was doing like offset printing. He was doing plate making. He was doing, they have an embossing machine that I'm sitting on here that's from 1994 that I don't use anymore. So there's some things like that where I'm like, oh, I have this stuff that I don't know how to use because it hasn't been used in 30 years.
Yeah.
But he came in and he started the program in the early 90s, and it kind of grew. I believe he bought his first auto in the early 2000s, so like 2001, 2002, I think.
Now, is that something that the school approves and the school gets, or is he like trying to work this on the back end?
Program wise, this class prints production orders that actually generate revenue, and that revenue is put towards purchases for the shop. So like everything we've bought has been money that we've earned.
Right.
It's kind of the best way I can say that. But yeah, he bought that first auto in like 2001. That auto has actually since been sold. The second one is still sitting here in the classroom. And then the third one is our main one now. It's a 10 color Cobras that we use most of the time.
Nice. You guys are staying current.
I think that one's about 3 years old. So
yeah,
it's pretty sweet.
Nice.
But the idea now is that we put kids in, at production level for what you would see in a major shop, because we want them to be ready to go. Like, oh, if they were printing on, a workhorse from 1995, it's probably going to work, but they're not going to have quite the level of experience we want them to have when they get into the world.
Yeah, you don't want them to learn how to use. It'd be like if you taught kids how to use Rubylith, and then we're like, hey, go work at a shop, and they're like, what is this? Like, nobody's used this in 30 years. Like,
exactly. So you're trying to stay current with trends in the industry. And so that's kind of the other piece of it for us, where we're like, okay, we have to add this stuff. Like, oh, right now, like last year we were really thinking about getting a direct to film printer, and we were like kind of on the fence of it. We still haven't bought one because we're at the point where like, I don't want to do the maintenance on it. But for me, the idea of it was like, oh, we want them to be exposed to this and see this kind of technology, because this is something they're going to encounter every day, like all the time. But like in terms of screen printing as well, we want them to have that kind of base all over the place.
Yeah.
Well, where that comes in though, is that they have it. He's sitting in the screen printing shop, but they have a digital side. Like they have digital printers. And so it's not like he's runs a screen printing shop is trying to bring a DTF machine in there. He's talking about on the other side of the program.
Yeah. So, in general ideas for us, it's kind of that like, oh, we try to stay up with current trends just so that people have, our kids have the exposure they need to enter the industry without having to ask those questions when they show up. Like you said, 30 years of experience.
Right. Well, can we step back a little bit to where the guy gets the program going, starts, whatever. Does the school see this as, I guess, more of like a tech class where they can go in and do this? But at what point does it become like a bigger deal? We
fall under the career and technology education. So what that means is like our wood shop class, where you would learn how to build something, or our auto shop class where you learn how to work on a car. We kind of fall into that category. So career and technical education is our classification, if you will. In terms of like how things are handled, how it grew into that, I think pretty quickly once they started generating revenue, it turned into that kind of career opportunity. I mean, print has been a really big deal for a very long time. Yeah. And so it's always been that like career opportunity where it's like, oh yeah, like offset printing, like that was a big deal in the 80s. Yeah. Bindery work, all that fun stuff. So
yeah, I think it's amazing to have more hands-on classes and more hands-on things, and building trades and skills and all this other stuff. And that's something that our industry struggles with all the time. Is we just get a lot of like pats on the head of like, oh, you screen print t-shirts. You know what I mean? Like it's like I've been doing this for 17 years now, and I can still walk into a business event or a mixer or something, and there's a guy next to me who's a lawyer, and the guy next to me who runs some giant corporation or something, and they're like, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I screen print t-shirts. Like instantly they're like, oh, this dude's like in his basement making like has a clothing line or something. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
the hard part,
Legitimize.
yeah, the hard part is that even people and you're friends with don't really know what you do until you bring them to the shop and you're like, this is what it entails. And they're like, oh my God, like I didn't realize.
This machine is huge. What do you do with this?
I didn't realize this
three
was
of them.
so much manufacturing, and there's so much like stuff that is entailed.
And what that lawyer and corporation owner don't know is that your print shop probably generates more revenue than either of their businesses.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of crazy when you see that stuff where, people don't recognize how much work goes into it.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying, like having something like you guys have, it kind of is sad to a degree that there's only, like you said, only like two. Like, why is there not more of this?
I you know what? I don't know.
I can tell you.
To answer that.
I know why.
Let's hear it.
This is where you speak up.
Because the government needs to know how to divide money and make schools accountable for what they're teaching. And it's difficult to quantify career and technical education in a way that is fair to delineate who gets what funding. The prioritization is always math and reading. That's why science and social studies have fallen by the wayside. All of it.
Okay, so it's allocation of funding.
Essentially,
the government
yes.
doesn't know how to handle money.
Yeah, but you guys are
not only that, but they don't know how to. They don't like. They're like, we'll do state testing, but like the state testing for math is a lot of word problems. Majority of word problems in Florida. So if the kid can't read, then that doesn't mean they can't do math. So like it's an issue in general for allocation of funds. But
what was that Zoolander thing where it's a school for kids who can't read good?
Yeah, Center for Ants.
I don't know. I think the badass part is that you guys showed right off the bat that you can fund yourselves. Like I don't even need you, basically. Like you just you're in the school, but you kind of can fund your own thing.
Yeah, and that's kind of the other piece of it. We have like kind of the coolest elective because we give away like you get to print. One of our classes you print like 7 to 10 shirts minimum. Like you leave with that many different shirts you've printed, and you did all the design work and all the labor on it. But that's totally setting us apart because we don't have to ask for a course fee or anything. It's like, look, guys, just come on in. We'll take care of it.
Right, you don't have to send home like permission slips asking for like $10 for a shirt.
Slips, but it doesn't ask for money.
Right, that's what I mean. Like usually there's money involved. Like my daughter always brings me a slip, and she's like, "Will you sign this?" And then at the bottom it says, "Also make a check for $350 or something." It's like,
yes,
what is this?
Yeah.
So I guess what else do you guys have there? Because you said you have screen printing digital, but can you list like some equipment that you guys have? You said you have Cobra, but like what else do you guys have?
So on the screen printing side, I have so we have a dual-sided autocoder, and I actually still have our old one-sided autocoder for screen printing for screen coding. We have 2 different Exile screen makers for computer to screen. I mean, obviously, it's not the newest and biggest thing, but
why do you have 2? Just redundancy, or just 2 because it's 2 different styles?
One of them's older. I'm actually still sitting on it as well. But we use the newer one, and it's a little bit faster, but it's, you can't always have the oldest thing sitting here. But so I have basically one. And then when we have kind of heavier workloads or we have a lot of people trying to use them, we'll sometimes fire up that second one as well. Okay. So it helps us with our throughput here.
Real quick on that. Did you, because I know you said you want to stay current, but like, a little step back, do you guys do film at all or show them how to do film?
Our intro classes do. We use vellum for the most part because it's a little bit cheaper.
Okay.
But it's, same concept. You print an image on a sheet, you go ahead and expose it onto that screen.
I just think because a lot of shops nowadays still have their film printer as a backup. So it's one of those things like we still need to know how to use it. and still have it here, because you never know what goes on. Because that's one of the things that a lot of shops say is like, I'd like to have that, that boat mentality
expensive.
of like, you need to have two of everything.
Yeah.
Because when you're out in the middle of the water and something breaks, you don't have a second one. But that's a lot of people can't afford. Like with me, I have the laser. I can't afford to have $200,000 lasers sitting next to each other.
That's a lot
just
of money.
in case. Like,
No, that's.
so it's nice to have a old Epson, 4800 sitting here that I can turn on.
And that's actually, so I've looked at purchasing something like that too for film. I don't really know where I'd put it right now. That's part of the other problem, is we kind of have that space issue where if you start to buy things, you can't really just get rid of something and put it there. So as much as I'd love to have one, I can't really.
It's not like you can get a bigger shop.
Yeah, I can't just knock out a wall and add to it.
Well, just save that money,
space
dude.
Limitation. Save the money. Build an addition.
Renovations. Yeah.
Shows up with a sledgehammer one morning and says, "All right, guys, we're knocking out this wall."
And then
love it.
You're starting a whole new division that's masonry.
Kids would love
construction
to demo a school building. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
That would probably be their favorite thing ever. I don't know what it is. They love destruction.
I love destruction. I would love that. Have you seen those like rage rooms where you can go and just like destroy shit? You get
like a microwave and you just like ragging on it with a hammer.
Yeah, literally, they're like rooms with like sledgehammers. You wear like a helmet and like goggles and a suit, and you just beat the shit out of stuff.
That sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, so we did darkroom. You have two coders. What are you guys doing for screens?
What do you mean for screens?
Like are you using statics? Are you using rollers? Are you using?
So I have rollers. For our intros, we have statics. They're really small. They fit
the size of a paper.
Yes, they're literally
adorable.
the size of a sheet of computer paper. And they're hilariously tiny. But they're good
grab
for
one.
intro. Yeah, I'll grab one.
Yeah, I grab one. They're so cute.
This is what they start with. Nice. And then we go up to a 23 by. So we get a half-sized roller. They use in between to transition up because they coat these manually, these smaller ones. And then we get into the half-size Newman rollers. They continue to coat manually because it's not huge. I don't know exactly the dimensions on that one. But then we go up to a 23 by 31, the full-size production screens. And I think I have like 225 of those or something floating around here.
Okay.
Varying mesh counts?
Yeah, so we stretch them all in-house. I have 2 stretching tables for Newman rollers. And then, we try to keep most of them at about that 156, and then we'll go up depending. I keep, for our high-level production class, every once in a while we'll use something different. So I keep like 10 of them with different meshes, but most of the time we try to stick with the basics. So
you're doing maybe like a 110, a 156, 230, and a 305 maybe?
Yeah, in that realm. I mean, I've got some really high mesh counts. We've had the folks at CFAR have given us some stuff to test out, and we've had we have like a 650 mesh count, which is like, I don't even know what you would use that for.
And you're printing circuit boards.
Yeah, I don't need to print that on 23 by 31. Yeah. But I got a roll of it, and I'm sitting here going, I don't know what to do with this, guys, but I would love to figure out.
You could just
what kind of detail I can put on a shirt.
You could just do like an experimental day or something where it's like, let's see what we can make happen on
That's
this.
Exactly.
I mean, we do a lot of that here on like random days where it's like, let's try this, or let's, do a different coding method, or just something, and then put all of them on press and lay them out on a table at the end of the day. Because we do that with white a lot, where we'll try like a sharp and a round on the coder, and we'll play with the OMs a little bit, or go a little higher or a little bit lower, and then we'll lay all the whites out on the table like blindly, and be like, grab people from the office and say which one feels the best, which one looks the best, which one has the best like optical brightness, like all these things. And then
that's the capacity learning here. I mean, that's important.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to say. Like I was interested in the darkroom is because it's such a huge. We always say on the show, like it always starts with a screen.
Well, yeah,
because it's screen printing, and if the screen sucks, then the printing sucks. Like you can learn all the other stuff, but if your screen sucks,
everything. Mm-hmm.
So you guys focus a lot on the screen, I'm guessing, in learning in that department. Do you spend a certain amount of time in each department, or is it constantly flowing throughout the year?
So we kind of run several different levels of courses. Our intro class gets kind of a pretty broad overview of printing. We have 12-week trimesters. So they get like, I would say their first, like their intro class, they probably spend maybe 40% of it, something like that, in screen printing. We also do a lot of design work. That's like their intro to design software. So they get to like learn a little bit of Photoshop, a little bit of InDesign, a little bit of Illustrator. And, you know, they design all of their own projects. So a lot of that time is sunk into that as well. But they do like a notepad project. They make a calendar. They do some sublimated coasters. We have a lot of kind of small projects they work on.
That's a lot of different. Like, are you doing all of this, or do you have multiple educators in this space?
There's two of us that basically run this classroom, and I handle the behind the scenes for the most part, just because that's my preferred space. So I'm the setup guy, where I'm like, hey, I'll buy this, we'll take care of it, we'll get it all set up. Like, you guys got to teach this stuff to the kids, and that's just what I prefer. But I will jump in if necessary as well, where I'm like, oh yeah, I know how to do this. Like, come on in, we'll take care of it. But like, yeah, it starts to get kind of nuts. We've talked about throwing in a vinyl project. We don't do that in intro classes anymore. They get to make stickers, but we just print those and give them to the kids after they've designed them. It's more of a design project.
Mm-hmm. Does the screen printing fund that side as well?
Yeah. So we pretty much fund the whole space for graphic production. Mm-hmm. And the screen. So we do like produce things in that side, but we don't gear as much to it. Right. So like if somebody that orders t-shirts a lot or something wants, you know, like a banner, it's that residual business, or we're like, okay, if you want to print a banner, we'll do it for you, but I'm not going to go nuts and try to sell it, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I think this is where like Christina comes into play, but like a question that I have and a concern is just, you know, the original guy comes in and is like, oh, I'm interested in screen printing, starts this screen printing thing. And when you start a screen printing business, you kind of are winging it until you eventually figure it out. But you never fully figure it out is the thing.
No, you're always learning.
Every screen printer is always learning like a new way to do something or a way to improve something they've done before. But the scary part is you guys are teaching kids this basically. So like, and this is not, I'm like actually just really curious, is like, how serious are you guys on like educating yourselves constantly so you make sure you're telling the kids the right thing? Like, are you having people like Kevin in where he can give like all the knowledge he can on the darkroom, and then having a consultant in for printing on press techniques and stuff? Again,
with the amount of time we have, we don't get a lot of that stuff coming in, but we do spend a lot more time making sure that processes are consistent. So, you know, at the point where like, when we do emulsion, it's like, we'll talk about it. Our whole classroom here actually is set up so these lights are all LEDs, and we actually turn the entire classroom into a dark room. And so we'll get all the kids around. We'll talk about it for like an hour and 15 minutes or so.
Yeah.
And we spend kind of an in-depth class talking about emulsions and how they work. And then, you know, exposure times and stuff like that. But when it comes down to actually doing the project, we want them to have a level of success. So we don't just throw, you have to figure out how to expose this screen, how much time it takes to do this. It's like, we'll give you
you're not super getting into the nitty gritty. You're giving more of like a
foundational information,
foundational like crash course to where they can get excited about it and go through and do the whole project, rather than like, I've got to learn about.
We want success, not like struggle, you know?
Shamus and I talked about this yesterday about.
I want to tattoo that on my forehead. I want success, not struggle.
Yeah. Well, we talked about this yesterday because I've heard a lot in the industry about when you get a new hire and like, we're going to put them on cleaning screens day one. And coming into this with the education background, I know that very rarely will be successful, like fully successful. And it came up because Shamus was explaining the process of their first project, screen printing project. And it's literally aligned with when I talked to Al about when she's ready for a new hire. She was like, I'll put them in cleaning screens. And I was like, I would reconsider that. I know that that's generally what happens.
Probably where you need help, but
the first challenge in learning is disposition. And getting someone excited about something. So my thought with her was I would let them learn the process from beginning to end so that they understand how it all works. And not only that, but the critical component that cleaning screens actually is. Like, it might seem like grunt work, I understand, but like you said, like, screens are the most important part. So I told her I would start with that person, have them create a design, like create one with you. If they can't do Photoshop, whatever, like do it alongside them or Illustrator, and then walk them through the process of creating that shirt. And then they go home that day with their very first custom crew or upstate shirt. And they're like stoked, like, okay, I understand at least high level the process. They're stoked to be a part of it. They understand everything is important. They're going to be more likely to stick around if they have buy-in. It creates a foundation for critical thinking. If you understand the components, you're not just repeating something someone showed you how to do. You understand how to solve a problem if something comes up. Mm-hmm. So the position from a school is going to be a lot different from the education perspective, because their goal is teaching them about screen printing. They're not teaching them how to do a position in a shop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we don't have the, like, we need to hire somebody to work the darkroom. If we hire we do hire some kids after school, but they they do everything. It's not like you're going to come in and you're only going to load shirts on the press. You're going to come in, you're going to do that. You're going to tear down. You're going to clean up. You're going to burn screens, you're going to reclaim screens, whatever it is, you're going to know it all by the time you leave here.
And I think to the point of not having somebody immediately go to the darkroom, it makes me think of like when you try to hire a sales rep and you're like, all right, go like find some sales. And then they sit here for like 2 months unsuccessful.
Yes.
And it just beats them down and they're like, I hate this. I don't want to do this. Whereas I would rather give them like, hey, here's 10 clients. Like, they're small to medium clients, but like they're yours, and like
grow it,
they instantly get like some satisfaction of like, oh, I have an order and I can work through the whole thing. So
that makes them appreciate you as a company too.
Yeah. So you as a educator, you're kind of like getting them excited about the whole process to where they want to potentially leave high school and be like, oh, I could go work at a print shop and I feel confident to at least have my feet wet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, the other piece of that dark room for me is always like, dark rooms are always so dark. They don't have to mushroom management. I know they don't have to be, but I've seen somewhere it's like, you want me to throw me in this dark room when I get here? That's right off the bat not appealing to me. Yeah. So that's one of those pieces where
one of the first things on the very first time I went to M&R. I was with Rich Hoffman and we walked into their dark room and it wasn't dark at all. It was like very, very bright. He had like every other panel in the ceiling was a yellow, light safe light. And it was just very bright in here. He's like, yeah, this is what it could be. And I'm like, oh, cool. So I like came right back to the shop and like added 3 more lights to the dark room and got tube covers. And I was like, oh, it's bright as hell in here now. So what is, like, do you guys have guidelines at the school? Is like, they should be learning something, or they should be, or are you guys just more like, we got this? And like, are there specifics that you need to make sure these kids are like getting a grade? I was going to
ask is, how do you grade? Like, what standards do you use?
Career and technology is always so different. So we have like,
plus it's an elective, so it's not.
It's kind of like that woodshop class where you're like, how do you grade this? You don't really know, it's the safety thing and also the finished product. Obviously we can't just grade, because screen printing is an art. So you can't be like, oh, this is like not perfect. Maybe that's what they intended, but a lot of times it's the understanding of the process we try to grade. Or we'll have like, okay, your design has to have these elements in it. It has to be a 2-color. It has to be whatever, those kinds of things you can kind of grade if you have a set of guidelines to start.
I remember when I had woodshop and I had a manufacturing construction class, and there was 2 projects. One in woodshop was we had to build a birdhouse. So like that was what you got graded on basically, is like, did it fall apart or did it like, did it serve its
If
purpose?
birds used it.
Would birds would actually use it? And then the other one was we had to make a
Well, that's
cannon.
never going to win.
It's a delayed grade. Like you have to put it up. You don't get your grade until the spring when the birds do the birds.
Bring
use
it back, show that it's got
Yeah.
some use on it.
We made a miniature cannon, so we had to use like the metal lathe and like make the whole like cannon barrel and all that stuff. And again, it was like, all right, well, did you get like the right dimensions, the right widths, all this stuff. So I'm assuming you can have a kid basically come in and be like, I'm just talking about the screen printing part. Like, I don't know how your digital department works. And honestly, I don't know anything about it. So I'm going to stick to your screen printing department. They can code a screen, burn a screen, put a screen on press, print a shirt. And you're like, okay, you succeeded.
And there's some, obviously some intricacies to that, where like, when they code a screen, you're looking for like, is it, dripping off the edges? Is there a huge deposit of emulsion that's coming off the screen when they're done with it? Or is it clean on the edges? Mm-hmm. Those kinds of things is what you're looking for is, are they using it properly? So those are obvious signs.
Mm-hmm.
Is it number grades, letter grades?
It's letter. I mean, they score points and get a letter.
Like, are you like, oh, you get a 94 on this shirt? Are you like, you get a B?
It's a lot of times
like,
not high
you know
points.
what I mean?
Like they're, it's like out of 5 points, like whatever, but it'll be like, you get like half a point for this, half a point for that, whatever it is. And they go through it and it just kind of works out.
So we never quite got to your background. So what did you do before this?
So weirdly enough, I came through this program, in 12 years ago now. I
don't think that's weird. I think that's awesome.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, that was one of the reasons I was excited to come back, because I knew about it. As this is a completely different shop than when I came through. So when I was in high school, I took this class. I took all the levels of it at the time. And I went out, and when I was in college, I had reached out to the old teacher that was here and said, hey, do you know anybody in the area that's looking for somebody to work? And in terms of, paying for school, I was like, I got to figure out how to do this. I don't want to take out student loans. I don't want to do this. So I'm going to college, and I'm like reaching out to these companies, and I finally got one that was like, yeah, I don't care. You can come in and work. And so I'd come in at, I'd go to school during the day, and I'd come in at 3 or 4 in the afternoon, and I'd print overnight or whatever was to do. And I'd get paid for that. And then when I got out of school, that company had grown enough that they were like, hey, we want to take you on full time. And so I came in, and I managed the shop there for like 6 or 7 years before I came in here. And so that was pretty fun, but.
So that proves the point of like, exact story is that
the necessity of the program.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying, like, you did the class, like it grabbed you enough where you were like, I want to do this, and I can do this. Like, what was it about the class when you did it that grabbed you? Like, what was it that made you want to continue?
That's a good question.
I like that you feel like you're getting something done. I guess you can
get that gratification of finishing.
You can see the production process happening in front of you. Like you can.
That's why I like to teach kindergarten.
Tangibly
teach reading.
See that pile of shirts that you're loading on press. You can see that get smaller, and you can see the pile at the end of the dryer get bigger. You can physically see that you're actually doing something, which I feel like in a lot of cases isn't always true. You're just another cog in the machine.
It's not little successes. That's what he was saying is
you're the whole machine.
Like if you're experiencing the success. Yeah. That's why I like teaching kindergarten, because teaching kids how to read, there's so many little skills that like they experience success so frequently that it was like motivating and exciting.
Yeah.
So you leave there, you leave the class and you go to this other place, and you, my question is, you said they were just like, yeah, you can work here or whatever. It seems very fast and loose, but like,
I guess it was,
did you walk into there with some skill?
I did walk into there with some skills. So I actually had the base of how to screen print. I'd come out of here as, like I actually worked our production class. So I knew, I didn't quite know how orders were taken and that kind of stuff, but I knew from the production standpoint, how to burn screens, how to set up a press, how to run a press, and how to package things for delivery or whatever it was at the time. And so I learned how to manage a shop from the guy who was there while I was in college.
What I want to know is that you walked into this shop to get a job in the first place while you were still in college. Did they like say, here's a press, show me what you can do? Or did you just like, I can do this, this, and this, let me handle it?
So they had somebody that had left, and they had nobody working that department. and they needed somebody to cover it. And I was like, hey, I can be your guy. Just, you're going to have to be a little bit flexible with me here, because I'm not coming in during the day. I'm going to need you to be flexible with hours. And they were like, that's cool. I don't care. As long as this stuff gets done on time. You come in overnight, I don't care. Just get it done. And so that was the mentality where I always worked too, where it was like, I got to get the job done, which is
how long did it take you to get up to speed? I think like
there?
how much did I think what Dylan's trying to say is how much did what you learn contribute to feeling successful in the shop?
No oversight from the production of, or from the standpoint of production. So it was like, I got in and a week later I was running jobs. Like that was the reality of it. We had one auto.
It's so weird to me. I mean, that's awesome, but I'm just saying, as far as like an owner being like, I'm going to hire this kid off the street and he's just going to be here after hours, and I'm hoping jobs are hire.
Because he was like, I don't know anybody that knows how to run this press. I don't know anybody that can come in and just do this. And so that was the value to him, when I was like, okay, I actually understand how to run this. I can show you. I know how to set it up, tear it down, whatever. And I don't think he had a lot of that before. Yeah, I think that was the problem, because he couldn't just hire somebody to do that.
Well, I think one of the things that, like, me included, and a lot of, shop owners and friends of mine, is the hesitation is always, do you hire an experienced person or do you hire green? And I feel like most of the time seasoned owners will say hire green, because we get people who are tainted. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you say no formal education on this, like I'm considering you formal education. So if some kid just left high school, and say you went without this class and just decided to get a job at this other place and learn how to screen print, and the guy was in desperate need of someone to screen print, didn't have anybody to train you, you just figured shit out on your own, and then you worked this manual press or this auto for 4 or 5 years, and you're like, I know how to screen print, I do whatever, and then I hire you at my shop, and you're like, I know how to screen print. And then you get here and you're fucking registering screens with a hammer, and you're scooping ink out of a 5 with a hand, like a glove in your hand. And like, these are things that I've seen, is what I'm saying. Like, people have that they learned how to do it their way, and that they think that, like, I know what I'm doing and this is how everybody does it, kind of thing. So what I'm saying is, I wish there was more of what you offer in the world, so that when people could come from high school to have, they're not cocky and like, I know everything there is to know. No, but they have a framework of like. So you're talking about like a vetting process where there's no way to vet what they know ahead of hiring. Because the problem is a lot of times they learn this skill for a few years. It's hard to reteach them the way that we do it, or the way it's properly done. You know what I'm saying? Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think. That's one of those things where, like, if I have kids that come out of here and they're looking for something, I tell them, like, here's my number, like, have them call me and I'll talk to them about what we know, what we do here. Cause that's kind of the weird like, there's no way around it. Like, I can't just give them a certificate that says you graduated screen print school. Like, that's not a thing that would be weird. It might be kind of fun. But I don't think that would be something that shops would be like. That shops would value. I understand what you're saying. That's the thing, is I don't know that would create a sense of value in the industry. Does that make sense? I think it would, in all honesty. And we've talked about this. We've built out a Screen Print 101 course. We have it all written down. I've talked about this for a few years now, where I think there should be, and again, this goes back to the trade conversation of, this is a trade. Like, people who come in here and learn how to do this whole thing, and can run an auto or run a manual and produce shirts and do the whole project, it's a trade. Like, that kid, I have people here that I've hired green. They go through the whole process, or here, 5, 6, 7 years or whatever, and they can run a Gauntlet 3 by themselves, start to finish, a 12 color print, whatever. It looks beautiful. They could leave here tomorrow and travel to Colorado and get a high paying job because they're needed. It's a skill that is regarded in, like, oh shit, you can walk in today and run a G3 and print any job that I have that I need done. Like, it's a skill. So it should be treated like a trade. So why don't we have certification? Like, why isn't there a accreditation in that case? So say this kid that works here and wants to move to Colorado, whatever, why can't he have some kind of certification or some kind of like, I took this class, like say they go to a MAID class, like, I don't know if you know what MAID is or not, but they go do a MAID class and then they get a certification with Chromaline, like through Kevin or something, where like they're a level 4, screen tech or something. And then they do this thing and this thing. And then they can show you like, hey, I'm a master printer, kind of like a master electrician. Like, why is
like
that
the
not a
journeyman
thing?
sort of thing?
Right, but I'm saying I think all it's going to take in our industry, because we're such a DIY industry, is for someone to just start doing it.
I know why it hasn't happened. It's because
you need to stop doing that. If you know the answer,
she has
say the
all
answer.
the answers. I don't.
Well,
she's
I
not
have the answer, and then
I know why.
stares at us.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Because screen printers hate school. They hate education. They don't want to do anymore.
No, that's not
very nice.
true. That's not fair.
1,000%.
No,
Yes,
what
it
I'm
is.
saying is
You literally have said on the show how many times you hated school.
I hated school, but I love
because it didn't have
the
this.
hands-on. It doesn't have this. Yeah, exactly.
I understand. I'm just saying that I know that there is a hesitation or avoidance when it comes to school.
I disagree. I think that
I'm going to send you a clip of all of the times that you said.
Yeah, I'm saying that when I would go to school, it was the mentality of like, go into math class. I'm going to pull up the whiteboard or the projector and you're going to memorize facts. And then you need to repeat it back to me. Yeah. That shit sucks.
Yeah.
That's not the same as walking into this dude's class and being like, hey, let's print some shirts. That rules. Like, that's way better than memorizing some facts and spitting it back out later.
I 100%
That's why I
agree.
say I hate school. But I'm saying that in my trade, if you're a screen printer and you're doing this, like, I would be stoked to, like, if this shit existed, I would go through right now and like spend a month and just like get all my credits, get all my stuff done. But the cool part is like, if that actually existed, so say like, the MAID labs or the whatever, if they offer these accreditations, I would gladly send my employees there.
Employees, yeah.
Right. I'd be like, I want all of my employees to be, top tier certified, because you know what? The first thing I could do is, as a sales tool as well, not only do my people know their shit, but as a sales tool, I can be like, hey, I'm not Joe in the garage.
And your company would have more.
Right. Like my company has like, hey, we're level,
reputation maybe.
Right. We're level platinum, screen printing certified. And you can trust that when you send your order here, it's going to be done right.
Yeah. There's value.
And then again, like you can, again, if Zach wanted to go get hired in Colorado by some massive print shop.
We can't hear it. It's okay.
Oh, that's good. Okay.
He can walk in and say, I'm level 3 certified. And they're like, okay, well, that's worth $30 an hour.
Well,
whereas someone down the road can be like, I learned from my brother Bob in the basement. You're going to get paid $15 an hour.
You just said in another breath 10 minutes ago that shops don't like to hire people who have experience. So how do you ensure that the licensing or the accreditation certification program is...
Because remember when I said that the dude who I would hire was scooping ink out of a bucket with his bare hand and he was hitting things with a hammer? You would not have that certification if that's what you were doing.
But how would you ensure that that certification program wouldn't create the people with experience that you don't want to hire? You just said you want to hire green people that you can train from the get-go. So how do you... That's the difficulty there.
It'd be like any other business. It would be like they would have, some kind of rating. It'd be like going to a diner and there's rats running around on the floor. They're going to have a 1-star review. This school would be reviewed as like everybody who went through here learned, and they grow as, they know what they're talking about.
So you'd have to have accredited spaces for people to learn.
Right. But I'm saying something like, I keep using MAID because there's not a lot of examples of this, but like the people who own it and run it are people who have been printing for years, that run successful shops that have some credit. You know what I mean? They're known to do good work. So I would trust to send somebody there to learn something, because I know in my field and in my industry that those people know what they're talking about. And again, like, I'm sure like Shamus, like, you guys are not, I'm trying not to swear a lot, which is hard because I know you're in a school and kids might want to watch.
You're not on speaker. Like, it's fine.
I know, but I'm just saying,
they might want to watch their teacher on a podcast.
Blah, 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 blah. But I'm just saying, like, look, I can just tell from this one frame that you guys have like white ceilings, which is like right above a dryer, and I don't see any lint all over it. I can see that the press is clean and
Keep
well
it clean.
taken care of. Right. I can see that you are taking pride in what you have, which is like levels above the rest of what most print shops look like.
So I have to tell you, like, it's so hard to keep things clean. When you have
I agree.
120 kids a day coming in here touching ink, like there are days where I'm like, how did I get this green ink on me? Like, you have something somewhere, and then it's everywhere. We've had days where somebody steps in ink and tracks it down the hall, and we're like out in the halls in the school wiping it off the floor to make sure that nobody's upset about it.
Or having it on the back of their shirt, and they go and sit in the next class, and it's on the back of the chair, and then on the back of the chair.
And it goes to the next kid, and
exactly.
Yeah, that happens.
But anyway, back to the other thing real quick is I think that you were saying like, oh, that doesn't exist or whatever, but like I would explore into that and like be like, is there any way that when people leave this class, because again, you're like one of two,
some form of,
it would be nice to be like, well, just create your own thing. Be like, this kid knows check mark. He can run the dark room. He can run or she can run the press, really whatever. That way, when they go to an employer, they have a thing from the school stamped saying, I can run this.
Yeah,
because
to me, experience.
The thing is a company, and I've been a hiring manager too, where it's like, okay, I need to hire somebody. And you're like, I have this guy coming off the street. I don't know what he knows. I don't know if he says he knows how to run a darkroom. I just have to assume that's maybe correct. I don't know. But I think that to me, the real thing is like the person that signed that says, call me, I will tell you that this is correct. The reference on it behind it is to me what's more important.
Like a screen printing version of a letter of recommendation.
Correct. That's pretty much
the thing
exactly
is it's not like I'm getting a piece of paper with a stamp on it from John Smith who works at X print shop. Like if I got somebody who applied for a job here that said I went to Raider Graphics and it's a high school where I took this for, X
you probably go
3 years.
You're out of your mind. There's no way you had 2 auto presses in high school.
Right.
So what we need to do is the first thing you do if someone wants to hire is you have to send them this podcast so that they're like, oh, it's legit.
Here, listen to this.
Yeah, like listen to this. Look at the giant dryer behind me. Like the kids learned on.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's worth exploring. And again, I've really wanted to make this a real thing for a good long while. I think it's just going to take somebody who has a platform and more of like a school type thing to start it and do it. I can't send my employees to your high school to learn, but it's a good foundation for you guys to start where if people left your school, they're already a leg up above certain people. Yeah. So I think that's awesome that you guys have it. I'm seriously like, as someone who loves this industry and loves the stuff, I'm like super giddy that you have this. Like
I've kicked around the idea of trying to do like community education stuff where it's like you can have adults come in
on the weekends, even like it would be
so hard, like process wise, to do it in any time frame. Like
summer?
It would need to be like minimum like a 4-hour class. And that would be
so Dylan and I mapped out a 101 class a while ago, and it was 2 days.
Well, okay. So I would try to expedite because we do have dryers for screen coating. So you'd be able to coat your screen and dry it. That would probably, not eat up that much time. But in terms of production, like we could go pretty quick, but I would say maybe 4 hours would be what I would need.
I got a question. Why can't you do, and my son's done this where it's at the college or it's at the high school or whatever, where it's just like a summer course where anybody in your community
that would be
whatever ages can sign up for it and they go.
Shamus wants time off. Teachers
I do like
want
summer. I'm not going to lie to you.
I know, but
that was one of the big pulls for me moving here instead of being like in an industry. Because, like industry wise, it's busy all summer. Like you hit March and it goes until September or October, whatever it is. And you are like going nuts. Like that is all I've ever seen in industry. And now I'm like, hey, I start up in August and I go until June, whatever it is. And then I take the summer off.
Yeah. Like, I mean, it's up to you if you want your summers. I'm just saying that like I
do.
I know teachers who are like, I'm okay with working and making the extra money where you could just do a summer course for like 2 weeks of the summer. It doesn't have to be the whole summer. Do it for 2 weeks. You get paid for another whatever for the class.
Yeah.
And the community can come in, sign up, and learn how to do
I think that would be,
and then walk away with that certification paper that they were educated by.
That would be pretty cool to do. That I mean, it would interest me to do it. I'm not going to lie to you. I would do that in the summer, but I think it's not like it's on my own terms. It's kind of nice, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I don't know.
We should talk after. I have a lot of.
You have some thoughts?
I have a lot of it done.
She has so
already.
many thoughts.
So many thoughts all the time. Referring back to like the whole reason the hiring and disposition of someone when they're learning came up is because of the first screen printing project that they do in the class. I think that it would be neat for you to share what that project is.
That project?
Mm-hmm.
So that first project is like, they come in, their first week of class, whatever it is, first couple of weeks, they learn how to do design work. They use Illustrator for the most part in that, and they have to do like vector projects to create their own things. The first project, they have to create a design that has usually 3 to 4 elements that are vector graphics that describe themselves, whatever it is, things that they like, So if a kid's really into like, I don't know, something like bowling or something, they would put a bowling ball and some pins on there or whatever.
Okay, first of all, what high school kid nowadays is into bowling?
I don't know. When I was in grade school, my high school had a bowling alley under the gym. We used to do it like 3 times a week because our gym teacher.
Well, you have a rad
people
school.
in Minnesota for sure. They have to be inside like all
guys have
0 degrees.
It's 14 degrees outside right now.
I was gonna say,
I stepped out and it was like hard wind. It was awful.
I was
That's where we're
texting
at.
Alex and he was like, it's 0 degrees outside. I'm like, oh, bummer. It's 75.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We have
we got like an
my
inch
kids have
and
no school today
whatever
because there's an
snow
ice
last night.
storm.
Yeah. So regardless, it doesn't matter. It could be baseball, it could be soccer, it could be whatever.
Sorry,
It's just things that define them.
Okay.
I'm trying to keep this on track because I feel
Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry.
we can go on tangents all day.
Okay.
So this project, they
It's a
do
gift.
design work, and they once they have that designed, we have them. This is where we get into like the first emulsion project. They have to learn how to code a screen, and we use these tiny little baby screens that I've got sitting right here, and they have to code it. And then they have to take that image and burn it on the screen. And we have them do a water-based ink print. They really, for the most part, we use like acrylic paint to start because it's less messy. And if they get it on something, it's easy to just wipe off. We don't throw them right into plastisol because that would be an absolute mess.
And you're printing on paper.
We print on paper. Yep. So if they screw it up, whatever, they get, however many tries it takes, they can do whatever. And this project goes into the cover of a binder that they get to take with them through all the courses we have.
And what goes
So this
in
is
that
like
binder?
their first print. It goes right on the cover. It is the first thing they see when they come into class through the rest of their trimester. They're here. And if they continue through here, they use that same binder, that same print.
And what goes in that binder?
That binder gets full of instructions for running auto presses, for coding screens, whatever it is they do, it all goes in that binder.
So they're
that's
getting
like
they're getting a print Bible.
They're getting SOPs, essentially.
They build their own print Bible. Yeah.
So
As
that
they learn
to me
things,
is
they
what
get
they
to-
could take into a print shop and say,
probably
here's
could.
what I've learned. Like when I graduated, both with my bachelor's and master's, like we had a portfolio and then I had a thesis that I could bring into somewhere and be like, here are examples of why I can do what you need me to do.
The last page of that Bible should be their accreditation.
Okay, we'll make one. It's fine. Got it.
Okay. And let's stop saying Bible because we're not allowed to do that. You're in a school. We have to.
No, we're allowed to do it now.
Yeah, separation of church and state here, guys. Although they do swear on the Bible when they go to court or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Was
And that project takes about a week.
And it takes like a week and a half, depending on the the students. But
And the setup of the courses are, it's trimester. So essentially there's 3. So they start at that level 1 where they learn
start at
the
level
foundational things. And then they move to 2 and he said they could choose design or t-shirt. And then 3 is they
It's our
choose
print
12
production.
to 15 students and they essentially like run a shop for a semester.
so that one gets more in depth with the actual running of a shop. We give them real orders. Actually, I have one sitting right here if you want to see it. But they get So they get like a job ticket like this, where it's like, oh, you'll have like a proof on here, and then on the back they'll have all this information about whatever it is. But they get to take this, and then like we have artwork set up on a server. They go in and they have to burn screens, create jobs, And then we give them, so we price it for them. We don't want them doing any of that stuff. But we do have them see how that money flows through here. So they have an idea of how profit works. So if they're like, oh, like, we sell this shirt for $10 or whatever, and it costs $4 for a blank or whatever it ends up being, we get this percentage back to the shop, and then that production class actually gets an incentive program because federal law doesn't allow us to actually pay them. We actually have an incentive program where they get to spend a certain number of dollars that corresponds to whatever they made in class. So like if they made, $1,000, we usually give them 10%. So they would get $100 to spend off of that. And they usually do a lot better than that. But
what do they spend it on?
So we allow them to purchase things online. It can't be any money value. So like you can't buy gift cards. Those are off the table. Apparently, technically that's money laundering. So that's not allowed. But for us, it's like we have kids buying, we had a kid leave with an Apple Watch last year. We have things like that where they're like, yeah, we get to buy this stuff with our profits.
That's awesome.
Does the class makes X amount of money and then they get split equally?
So our production teams, we track in a binder, what they each do production wise. We try to keep it pretty even, but sometimes there's a team that's just like ripping through things and they are doing a fantastic job. You don't want to, rain on their parade. So you're like, let them go. Yeah. So sometimes you do get teams that make a pretty good amount of money.
That kid's level platinum.
And then, that each team gets whatever they made. So they split that however they decide.
And I think that's something that's overlooked, and it's really smart. And we, in one of the, group chats or whatever group I'm in, was having a discussion the other day where, and I've had this in my own personal experience at my shop, is the printers and the employees aren't necessarily educated on how the profit system works for screen printing. They look at it as, say example, we get some really big job of some big touring comedian or something. And they're like, oh, wow, that order was, like this comedian for the summer spent like $250,000 here or whatever, or $1 million or whatever it ends up being. And they're like, oh, Dylan's just rolling in it. You know what I mean?
The thing is, your expenses go through the roof when you have those jobs.
Exactly. But that's what I'm saying is we've had certain jobs where, say, even it's one job and it's, 5,000, 10,000 shirts or something. And the employee is like, oh, well, are we all getting bonuses when this job's over? Because like this is a huge order. And I'm like, but that's the thing is they don't realize like, okay, well, this size order, we made this much, but the blanks were this much and it's a complicated print. And there's actually more logistics behind it because it's a big order where, we're palletizing things or we're boxing things a certain way for tour, or we're staging things because they're going to different venues. All of this takes more time, money, energy, all these things.
Everything takes.
And they just don't see that. So it's awesome that you guys can educate them on like, this is what it takes. This is what it costs. And this is what you end up with.
Everything, but we make them account for, a screen fee, that kind of stuff. We make them account for labor costs, that kind of stuff, even though technically our labor is them. They have to account for it in there so they could see that normally that would be included in there. Because a lot of it's like, technically off the top, like you don't make as much as you might appear, even if you're charging that amount of money. Yeah. So they have to see that kind of reality. And it also gives them kind of a window into that so that they.
But it's nice because you're a business, but you're educating them on the fact rather than just a regular screen print business where the owner might not want to give all those details. Yeah, you guys are giving them prepped. Again, it's an insight. It's an insight that they can take from there and go to another shop and not have that mentality of like, how do I say this without sounding like an ass? A lot of times they go into a job and they think that what they're doing is worth more than what the reality of it is, I guess. Where
you're jaded on the amount of money that comes in because you think, oh yeah, that job was $100,000, but your shop maybe only made 10 grand on it, whatever it is. And it's
exactly.
That's not a ton of money.
Or they see that an order brought in $100,000 and they think, well, I printed those shirts. He's making a ton of money. I should be getting paid more. And they don't understand.
Yeah. And so it looks like, So again, for us, we try to open that up so they see that there is a significant amount of it that goes to overhead expenses too.
Yeah.
Do you do something that when I was a teacher and even in life in general, I found a lot of success in like, planned non-examples or like modeling failure, so to speak, like mistakes. Like, I think there would be a lot of value in saying, okay, well, let's try printing it like this and it doesn't work. And you're like, okay, why do you think this didn't work?
So we do that to an extent in our production class. A lot of times, again, we have to sign off on prints. So we have a process in place where it's like,
I feel like it might be more in 2 than 3, in all honesty. I don't know the classes, but I feel like once they're in production,
a lot of times once they're in production class, we usually have them set up the job and everything. But before they run any shirts, they obviously have to test print everything. And we have to give them the okay on the test print before they go ahead and print the job. Because that's the guide in place where it's like, if you don't have that, then there's no way it's going to be the level of quality we want to output isn't going to be there. And so we have to make sure that that's there. The level 2, we do discuss it, but it's not as like, we don't print live jobs. So it's really hard to regulate that as much, because a lot of times they're printing for themselves. And it's like, yes, you do want it to look good, but there's not a perfect way to, I don't know if it, like,
I know what you're saying. My thought was like art, teaching them the difference in screens. Like, I think in a shop,
like mesh counts and stuff,
like mesh counts. So like,
I have a perfect
we're going to use 156 for this shirt and this print. And they're like, okay, but why? I'm like, okay, well, you know what? Let's print it on both. Go ahead. What do you think it should be print on? Okay, let's print it. Okay, this is why we don't use that one, because it's going to look like this instead of this.
Yeah.
A perfect example of this is Peter Walsh talked to me about this a long time ago, where he basically has, say, a manual press or an auto or whatever. And it's like, all right, well, let's test these white inks and find out which one's the best white ink. So say it's a 4-color manual and you're like, all right, well, you put the white ink in all of them and you have the kid come over or the employee or whatever, and they pull a squeegee on each one. And then you lay the shirts out at the end of the dryer. And you're like, wow, number 3 looks great. Number 2 looks like shit. 1 is like crusty and like whatever. And you're like, oh, the best white ink is by far number 4. The truth is they all had the same white ink in it.
Yeah.
But screen number 4 had proper tension, proper EOM.
Yeah.
And everything, the squeegee blade was sharp. And then screen 2 had the same screen, but it had a dull squeegee blade. And, screen 3 had cold ink that wasn't properly like mixed and agitated and so on. So it teaches them, you can have a screen, you can have a squeegee, you can have the ink, but if the variables aren't in check, but that's what I'm saying is you can teach them like, okay, like this is what a print looks like when you have low tension. This is what a print looks like when you have high tension. And then the thing that they can do with all of those problems they just learned is when they're on press and they're like, oh, I'm getting, the screen's dragging here. Mm-hmm. I know it's probably the tension of the screen. So or if they're like, I'm not clearing the mesh well, did you agitate the ink? Is the ink warmed up? Are the pallets warmed up? And it's like, they know from that demonstration that you gave them that, because that's the thing is you go in all these Facebook groups of all these younger printers and they're like, what's the best white ink?
Why is my print looking bad?
And it's like, they're almost all the white ink, like there are shit white inks, but like most of them are the same. Like it's not the ink.
They just put it in a different bucket and they give it to you.
Yeah. Most of it is in the technique and in the process, and they don't, which is why we have a spring break or a summer camp that teaches about white ink, because it's the exact same thing. It's like, it's all like, in the mesh and the squeegee blade and the technique.
Well, I do say, like, I keep at least 3 different white inks on hand, because I obviously have the poly mix and the cotton mix and whatever.
There's different whites in that sense. I'm saying as far as printing one of the cotton t-shirt.
Yeah. So that like I keep, there's definitely a lot to control. That's one of those things that, level 2 kind of covers, but we don't get into a lot more than cotton from that standpoint until we get into production. And that's when you really get the learning on that.
So that's why the 101 course, we were calling it 101. That's why I was saying is that the focus of that is learning the difference in the variables and why, like, it's not just like, oh, here's how to print a shirt, because I believe that that's what a majority of shops do is you show me what to do and then I know what to do. But if something comes up, I don't know how to problem solve because I don't have the tools. I don't understand it. I just know how to mimic. I know how to repeat the behavior. I don't know why the behavior exists. So,
and a lot of times you'll go on like social media and you'll see like, someone printing a shirt or something. And I mean, you probably see this too. Like if you go online, it's someone pulls a screen down and they go to print a white ink and they pull the squeegee like 8 times. And then they lift the screen up, look, and then they bring it back down and they push it twice or whatever.
8 times, man, like that is right away. That's not going to work for me.
But what I'm saying is that if you have a student or somebody that comes through and you're like, okay, here's ink, here's mesh, here's press, print me a shirt. They're like, okay, I learned that I need to put ink in here. I need to hold the squeegee at a 15 degree angle.
But they need to have the
I can whatever. But they don't, if they don't have the troubleshooting of why we put ink into the screen and why we do it a certain way. You know, I had somebody here the other day that was visiting, and it was kind of like, oh, well, my guys will just do like half a bucket of white ink in the screen and they'll just print. And I'm like, they're like, why do you have such little ink in your screen? I'm like, because that's all we need for this job. Like, and we'll also
put a gallon of ink in here.
Right. And there's multiple variables there of like, okay, well, 1, I don't want to make a sloppy mess. 2, if you have too much ink in there, it crawls up the squeegee and it gets all over everything. And 3, the more ink you have, the screen will actually roll and not shear off. Yeah. And they're like, oh, I didn't know that or think that. And it's like, well, did you realize that sometimes your prints look like shit, or like that you have so much ink that you're...
Do you think there might be a problem somewhere?
Right, there might be an issue.
So what you're explaining there is exactly why you have to teach with non-example, though, because that's how it lives in someone's memory, is attaching it to something like that. If you're saying, hey, just use, this is why we use the squeegee at this angle, and you show them, versus them learning actually like do it at different angles, which one looks best. Okay, that's why we do it. That's a different, that lives in a different part of the brain that's committed to long-term memory.
There's a million variables we could talk about right now, but it's just going to get nerdy and boring. And I understand, like, again, Shamus, like I super respect your guys's facility and what you guys are doing. And I also respect the fact that you could get into a million nitty gritty variables that this industry has, because it's super heavy in variables, but it's better for you to take the approach that you're taking, where you're getting them through the process very, very well, but enough to where they could take that foundation and go learn all these variables, the rest at a place.
You can kind of play with it a little bit. Again, when they get into that upper level class, we do touch a lot more in depth on that stuff, but it's not like you don't have time in 12 weeks to dive as deep as I would love to. Yeah. And that's what's hard.
Well, in reality,
you get them for like an hour and a half, right?
You could take 2 weeks and an hour and a half.
Hour and a half.
That's exactly. You could spend a week talking about mesh.
Right.
No kid wants to sit there and listen to talk about mesh.
And they would hate the class and not want to do it anymore.
Because that would change your disposition. Disposition is the most important part.
All right. Well,
I have one. He asked on the form about what shops are looking for in a new hire.
Okay.
I asked a couple of my friends, Alexa and Tyler, in-house prints. I liked what she mentioned, and I don't know if it's something that you touch on in that course because you're talking a lot about production, but she was saying that the requirements have evolved. Now some of the biggest requirements aren't even specific to the job that they're applying to, but more geared towards reliability, like showing up on time, having a reliable means of transportation, attention to detail for quality control, patience, ability to pivot, willingness to learn multiple jobs and do various tasks. So I was wondering if, it's like a sidecar to what you're teaching them, if there's any of the character skills.
So the reliability thing is more on my production kids when we get into the after school stuff. I do hire 2 to 3 kids at a time, typically. I'm actually looking at going up to 4 or 5 this year. But those are the ones that are actually brought in. I pay them an hourly wage. They do a lot of production after school, and they get the really, really in-depth stuff. And those kids, I do have to break them in with communication where it's like, hey, if you have something going on, I'm not going to like harp on you about it, but can you let me know that you're not going to be here today? Those kinds of things where like I want them to be here on time. They get done with school at 2:40 in the afternoon. They're usually in here within 5 minutes. So 2:45, I usually see them every day. And if they're not going to be here, I'm like, hey, can you communicate with me as soon as you know? Those are things that I drill into those kids more so. The classroom is a lot harder with it being school. Technically, they're supposed to be here, but you have less control over it.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever had to fire a student, one of the after school students?
Fortunately, I have not. That's one of
Have
those
you
things.
wanted to, but then didn't?
So the realm of after school kids, like I get to pick them. So usually by the time I picked them,
You're picking
I
your
know
A
I'm not going to
players.
fire them. Yeah, you're picking the kids you want here. And to be frank, the kids that are here want to be here.
Right.
You know,
And
so
you can
it's
pay them because it's after school, right?
because they're not in school, so we can actually pay them. Yep.
And then you can turn the music on.
We turn music on most of the day.
Okay, good.
That's
I
high
was gonna
school.
that's a fundamental print shop
I-
thing is they need to be
I'm pretty
drowned
lax
in.
on music too. Like I don't care what they play as long as no one's offended by it. They can play whatever they want. It does not matter.
That's exactly what they need. They need that. They can't go from a school of quiet nothingness to walking into a shop and just metal is in their head all day long.
It does not. Yeah, it doesn't bend. Like it doesn't work well for me to have like. Yeah, you're gonna listen to this like piano music, whatever like whatever basics, whatever, whatever. Put on whatever you want. I don't care, as long as nobody's upset about it. Just roll with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Whoever does the best print gets to pick the music.
I think
usually there's like one kid that likes to do it, and the rest of them don't care. He's the kid that you hand the aux cord to.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
I don't know. Like
they don't even know what aux cord means, though.
I know it's all Bluetooth, but it's.
I know.
You know what I mean? There's that one kid that's like, yeah, I want to do it, and everybody else is like, yeah, let him have it. I don't want to do it.
So I have a
That's too
random
much
teacher
pressure.
question. Did you have to get a teaching certificate to be in this role?
So fortunate, I'm a production assistant. So
Perfect.
I don't have to.
Because my next question was going to be,
we have to have a licensed teacher as well.
PD do you have to do, like professional
So I don't
development?
have to do the teacher PD. I do.
In order to maintain a teacher license or certification, you have to do X amount of professional development.
Because I don't have to have a teacher's license for it, I run the business side of things. I don't have to do as much of that.
So you do
My
order intake and
PD
stuff
last
then?
year, I do order intake and all that fun business related functions. Last year, my PD was going to Printing United in Vegas, and I was out at what's the one in Long Beach? I was out at Long Beach last year too.
ISS.
Didn't make it this year. I had too much going on, but
Well, maybe
So
if
I
we
almost
do
made
a
it
summer
up this year.
camp or something, he can come to
I would love to
summer
see you out
camp.
there. Yeah,
If we do a whiting summer camp, maybe you can come.
well, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
I'd enjoy that.
for sure. I think a lot of shop owners right now, their biggest headache is basically what Christina just said is like
Get people to show up.
getting, yeah. And I don't want to sound like a, whatever generation, whatever it is, but like we just have such a hard time getting people nowadays that are younger to show up, stay off their phone, actually be dedicated to the task they're supposed to be doing. Like I would pay more for a kid who showed up here 5-10 minutes early every day, took the appropriate amount of time at lunch, worked until 5:30 and said, "Hey, is there anything else you need from me before I leave?" Like if they fit that criteria alone, I'd be like, you get a gold star every day.
A little bit of thinking. Yep. That's all it takes.
Like the rest we can learn, the rest we can figure out. Like if you have that in you, you're already probably going to be a pretty good worker.
Yeah, but we've talked about this before in that if you want a good employee, then where they work has to be good too. It has to be the only time you talk to them can't be when they mess up. It has to be acknowledging their hard work and positive.
And failures.
The reason why he's saying is that he likes it because there's these little successes along the way. I think if shop owners committed a little bit more to positivity or incentivizing, doesn't even necessarily have to be monetary, even just acknowledging someone or how hard they're working for you. Like you can't expect an employee to go above and beyond if you as a shop owner aren't going above and beyond. If you're just paying them and then that's it, or like it's
like the Mad Men quote of like, that's what the money's for.
Well, like,
then why would they ask at the end of the day if there's anything more you want them to do? Because you paid them until 5 or whatever. Like if you want them to put more into it, then you have to put more into them.
Yeah. And that was like at my old shop, I used to take the guys out for lunch like once a month or whatever it was. And we'd talk, during lunch on that. But also I used to kind of have like a loose set of guidelines for when, like if we hired somebody and they'd come in and have to learn a lot, we'd try to start them a little bit lower on the pay scale. But when they learned something, there was like a measurable goal to like, yeah, you can get a raise for learning this. Like once you know how to do this, I can pay you a little bit more.
Right.
And so like we would kind of work that into it too, but we made sure they knew that that's what was happening, so that they were aware that, yes, I don't know a lot, but when I learn this, there's value.
Yeah. But I mean, also we're human. So like, yeah, you can put money in my bank account, but that isn't going to
dangle a dollar in front of them.
Yeah. That ain't like that. At the end of the day, like I walked away from a 6-figure job because I wasn't happy. Like it took me a while to do it. It took me longer than it should have, but it wasn't filling my cup. Like
No.
I don't know.
I get it.
Yeah. The other thing I think we should potentially talk about is how local businesses might feel about you doing this. You and I talked about pricing, and because I think that Shamus's background lends itself to, he knows about the shops in the area.
Well, technically, you can undercut any shop if you wanted to.
I don't. That's
I know,
he
but you
doesn't.
could if you
I
could.
refuse to do that. Yeah. And that's like, I've had people be like, oh, well, this person offered it. And I'm like, fine, go with them. That's fine. I'm not going to underbid somebody. The only time I will get into that is if it's in our district. Like if our school district is like, oh, we want to order these shirts. Like I will match a price, but I will never try to beat it. Like that's the only time I will get into it.
I just want to make sure shops know that he's not trying to like steal work from anything, and they're not looking to turn a big profit. They make the money they need.
I don't pay for any marketing expenses. I don't have a website. I don't keep track of like Instagram or anything like that. We don't have anything on the internet. Most of it is done by referrals or word of mouth. And so like a lot of what we do isn't like to attack businesses. Like we're literally just like, oh,
if you also don't need a ton of work. Like you just need work to keep kids busy, really, right?
Well, to pay
I like
for
to take
stuff?
work in. I like to be, we need to pay for stuff. Like we have expenses.
Right.
So.
But you're not like, I'm feeding the beast of like, I need 30 print shops a day and I need whatever.
Yeah. Like that's,
you're on cruise control for the most part.
We try to keep a couple of small ones a day or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, we're like, you're absolutely not trying to like,
but what I'm trying to say is you can accomplish that by just slow word of mouth alone. Like you don't need the website. You don't need the, you're not paying ad money on Facebook or Meta or whatever.
Our goal is to add value to the industry and kind of like, we're training employees a little bit here. And that feels like instead of going after a ton of work, we're kind of providing a service to them for like a small portion of maybe what they might get. Because there's not a lot here for them to actually go after.
Ultimately, if a shop feels threatened by a high school screen printing shop, then their problem should not lie with the screen printing shop at the high school. It's a different issue, but I just wanted to address that.
I wouldn't say that. I mean, the people at your school are accredited, so they're a level above the rest. So,
but I'm just saying, I want the people listening to this to not think that like the high school, you're losing customers to a high school. I know you are.
Yeah, I'm like literally not actively seeking customers. Like they come out and ask for work, and that's when we take it in.
Yeah. Did Christina prep you at all on a possible shop hack? Do you have one?
She did not prep me on that. I don't know.
You don't have to have one. It's just we generally ask people at the end of like, do you have something that you found that is like your own way of doing something that, like we have some that are like baby wipes. Like every shop now uses baby wipes to like wipe ink up because it's the best thing ever for cleaning up ink off of anything.
I've literally never heard that before.
Oh, dude, you guys need to invest in baby wipes. 100%.
Add it to your list. 100%.
Anything to wipe ink off anything, press your hands, squeegee blades.
Good.
Yeah.
Baby wipes.
You probably should put a pouch in like each teacher's room for when they find ink.
You know how many of those we'd go through?
We do same thing here. Like every shop, we go through baby wipes like crazy.
A case
That's
a week,
like a big thing for us. We go through a lot of towels, but we use like a lid-free towels, and then we put usually what is it? Greenaway on it. Usually is what we end up using.
Yeah, dude, baby wipes, unscented baby wipes.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's wild.
100%.
Does that clean this? Like, what do you use that to clean? Like
everything.
Literally,
so my shop.
You could use it to clean the squeegee and the students.
Well, we have a squeegee cleaner. I don't need it for that.
Yeah, I'm just saying. For example, like on press, there's a cart next to each press where basically they're doing teardowns. So, they're taking the ink knife and they're taking the ink off of the squeegees and flood bars, but then the residual ink that's on the squeegees and flood bars, they'll do 2 baby wipes together, wipe the ink off the squeegees and flood bars. They're clean, good to go. And then if you got ink on the frame before it goes to reclaim, wipe it with baby wipes, comes right off. If you get ink on the press, floor, hands, baby wipes, comes right off.
That's absolutely wild to me. I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
Buy a pouch and try it.
Yeah, for sure.
The Mr. Clean, like the magic erasers you can get on Amazon for way cheaper. They're called melamine sponges. Okay. Every year for school, they're on like my kids' supply list, and I just go on and buy like a 50 pack for $8. And the teacher's always like, "Oh my god!" I'm like, "They're just called melamine sponges." So
they work great for taking haze out of a screen.
Okay.
Anyway, we don't need to get, baby wipes was more than enough of a shop hack to tell you. So we're good there. Let's do some quick takes, and then I would like to see if you could do this shop tour real quick.
Yeah, I can give a quick tour.
Okay. So these quick takes we're just going to go through 4 questions. They're more about you than about the shop.
She semi-prepped me for this.
Okay, cool. All right. What shirt has your shop produced that you are most proud of?
Ooh.
Oh, this shop? Because my favorite,
it could be the other shop that you work for. Like, what is the favorite shirt? You in general, what shirt have you produced in your career that you are most proud of?
The most proud of one was this fantastic one. This was a special effects one we did for a company that was going out of business that actually managed to stay afloat during the pandemic. But it's a bookstore, and they had these awesome shirts that had like this Amazon is evil print on them. It looked super cool, but it was like super intense to set up. It was like 4 colors, and it was just like this. I don't know. It was really, really tasteful. I was really happy with that one.
What is your go-to album? Like favorite album of all time?
Like music album?
Yeah.
Okay. I listen to a lot of EDM. So like, I want to take that off the table. But I don't know, man. That's a hard one.
Fine. My favorite song. What's your favorite song?
70,000 hours last year, whatever it was, 70,000 minutes, whatever it was. My favorite song?
Yeah, favorite song of all time.
Oh, you guys are going to kill me with this. Okay. Yeah, this is
my favorite is Meatloaf. I would do anything for love.
Really?
Is my favorite song of all time.
All time. I don't have an answer for you.
Like, he sits in a fucking silent room and stares.
He's
at the
in
wall.
a dark room.
He powers down at the end of the day.
I like my favorite song. Like if I were to go into my phone right now, I would probably be like, I don't know. Like,
well, you said EDM, so you're just sitting there like it's not even a song. It's just
like the genre of music. Like I go to see a lot of music.
It goes with the chaos part, though, doesn't it? Like you're talking about, he loves chaos.
So like,
yeah.
Rip through it. So like, there's so many like rips through of everything. Like there's a little bit of everything on here. Like
right, I'm gonna go with the
so you have ADHD too. That's cool. My favorite album of all time.
Never been diagnosed, but
Jailbreak by Thin Lizzy.
Really? Okay. You know what? Let's go like Love Bites by Hellstorm. That would probably be like.
There you go.
That's a good song.
Good pick.
Yeah, like again, I love a lot of different kinds of music, so it's really hard to be like.
It depends.
I love a lot of different kinds of music too, but like in reality, I look into my heart of hearts and I'm like, I like a good ballad. So
like I attend a lot of music, and I find crowds to be very, very different, and the country crowd is my favorite.
Oh yeah, for sure. Especially like 90s
They're so
country.
fun.
Yeah.
There's a festival here. They host where they only sell beer by the pitcher. Like you can only buy a pitcher. They don't sell cups. A whole pitcher.
And it's only like Milwaukee's best. Only Beast and
no Milwaukee's.
Bud Heavy.
Everything we sell here is Surly now. Like they're taking over. It's awesome.
Nice.
Last question. Do you have a print shop that you have a crush on?
This one?
Do you have a print shop? I mean, it could.
Crush on your own. Yeah.
It's so nice. Like I the reason I took the job was because it's just a beautiful shop. It used to be in a different part of the building, and we rebuilt it like 3 years ago, and we're already like too big for it. But I come in every morning, and I'm like, this is my favorite place to be. So that's good.
Perfect. Awesome.
That's amazing.
Well, let's do this tour.
Okay, so this is our dryer. I'm actually gonna take you guys through the darkroom first.
Okay.
Sure.
Because that's where everything starts, so that just makes sense. This is our darkroom. It's very dark right now, but we have lights set on auto, so those should turn on in a moment.
You have
Or if
3
they don't.
booths.
So I have a clean sink
Nice.
and 2 dirty sinks. They're all back.
Labeled.
So like, you turn it on, it'll do all of that work. But this is our, developed space. So then we have our screen washer back here, and it pretty much goes down the line here to reclaim screens. And then they come down and they get degreased in our clean sink. Sorry, this is probably kind of shaky.
And the exposed and the developed ones go in the clean sink as well.
Yeah, developed and degreasing go in the clean sink. We have our auto coder back here in the corner.
Kevin set you up with that new Grunig.
I don't know if Kevin set us up with it. This was right around the time I was coming in, so this was like a mess.
Oh, okay.
Getting that thing in here. And then we have our screen drying cabinet number 1.
The Vaztex drying rack.
Yep, we have 2 more in the other room. But this is just the first one. Then I have in here, we go through this door and we have
The light
2
speed.
exposure units. We have 2 light speeds.
I had one of those. I had that exact one right there.
Which one? The
The one on the
glass
left.
tape?
Yep.
Glass top? Okay. We have the glass top with the vacuum. This is what our intro classes for the most part use. And then we have our glassless that sits here. And then we have our screen maker sitting here with all sorts of fun stuff.
Going back to your exposure units, I love that you have the 2 because the one on the right is going to be used for your CTS because it's no glass.
Yep.
Then the one on the left is what you're using when you're using films.
But they get to see both.
Right. Exactly.
That
That's
one.
awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah. I'm glad you have both. Yeah, that's great.
So then I'm going to come out here into the shop. You can see our Cobra. We have.
How much do they get involved with the CTS? Do you just?
I have kids that run it. It is not just me. Yeah, it's fantastic to have them learning it. This thing is all set up. It's 10 color.
Quick question on your Cobra. Are you guys running water-based adhesive, or have you looked into like a print grip or a pallet gel
We
situation?
have double-sided pallet tape we use through PMI tape.
Yep.
We use their product because it's a lot less messy, and messiness in the children's game is an absolute beast.
Have you contacted PMI about using their pallet gel instead?
I haven't, for the most part, because we buy the tape from them. But those guys, they're pretty good with us. So I don't want to.
I'm just saying they came out with a new product that's called pallet gel, which is
you put
basically
down your pallet tape and you put it on top.
Yeah. And you basically just can scrub that over and over again, and you'll never have to change your pallets, basically.
I was talking to somebody about that, and he had said it's really good for T-shirts, but it's not great for sweatshirts, I think is what he had said.
Yeah. I mean, it can be,
I think
but
that was the difference.
Okay.
But otherwise, we're really happy with this. So I'm not like searching for a
do
new.
what works. The other question I had is, you have a TV or a monitor above your press. What is on that? Is it
That is, so I
different
have
departments?
No,
So I
it's,
have-
it's heads.
heads, and then I also have the end of the dryer right here.
That's amazing, because we were just talking about that recently, where people are doing cameras on the heads to see if they need to add ink or not.
So I don't have every head. I have 5 of them, the 5 that I can see least. And then I have the 2 that are right here I can see, so I don't need them. And then I have 2 flashes on here, so those obviously don't need them either.
Right.
But yeah, that's
What
one of those
kind of
things.
cameras are you having? Where can you show me a camera on a head?
Yeah, let me come around the press here.
I see you have a.
I kind of feel like this is a shop hack.
So like you can see right there, if you can see it.
Is it a wireless and it's got a magnet on the back of it?
It's all wired and it's got a magnet on the back of it. So the wires actually go up into the ceiling and drop down elsewhere in the building, because they have to go through a system to go through cameras, and they drop back down into the press so we can mount it on the camera there.
Oh, okay. So it is wired.
Yep. So it's a wired system, but was the easiest way for us to get it put together. We have.
I mean, you already have the cords drop down, I guess.
Yeah, I'm just saying, from moving it from head to head, if you wanted to move them, but you're not moving them, you're just leaving them on those consistent 5 heads.
Yeah, we have enough cameras that we don't need anymore.
Okay.
So I have, in this area, we have screen stretching and storage, and I have cabinets, drying cabinets, and then I have 2 more drying cabinets in the back there. But yeah, we have a lot of screens.
Is it a semi-auto coder back there?
So that's a second autocoder. That's
It's single side,
sided.
he said. Yeah.
Yep, that's the old one. We don't use it really a lot, so it pretty much sits back here. It's on a cart, so I can move it if I need to.
I don't think we talked about, you said you have like 30-ish students in the first class, and then like 20 to 25 in level 2, and then you're doing like 12 to 15 in level 3, right?
Yep.
So that's why some of these things, like he has a ton of them because he's
Yeah.
So yeah, you get 30 kids, like
30
a rack
kids.
of
Yeah.
20 screens goes like that, you know, so you have a
Dude,
lot.
I love how well put together this place is already. I'm so stoked on this. This is
Like
I told you I wanted, when he was showing me around, I'm like, oh, we have to get a video of this. This is
So good.
sick.
So we have, this is covered in plastic because we actually had a leak in the ceiling, so we've been covering it. But we have screen stretching here. This is for our fixed frames. And we actually have it vented. If you look at the sides,
see that.
so the fumes go right out of the building.
So good.
They spent a lot of money on it. But yeah, that's kind of the basics here. Started the dryer, really exciting.
Sprint 3000.
We have,
But you have another one coming, right?
I have our manual press right here. Some kids' artwork set up on here right now. And then we have our sportsman. There's 6
It's an
colors.
older sportsman.
It's older. I think this
I
one's
mean, it
about,
looks very, very clean. And
but the nice thing is,
well-maintained.
like, the thing is, like, shops still run these.
Oh,
and so
definitely.
it gives us the opportunity for kids to see the analog and the digital.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's so good. They had one of the original presses at ISS this year, the one that they have in the M&R showroom.
One of the original.
And it still runs. Everything's still great. And that was one of the things we talked about because this is their 40th anniversary, that those presses are still running totally good as long as they're maintained.
Yeah. I mean, that's the general space. And then I have, you know, a bunch of stuff going in and out. This is our like exit door. I have a lot of stuff coming out of here all the time.
Nice.
Otherwise,
What kind of shirts do you guys generally like to print on?
my favorite to print is typically like a Gildan 2000.
Good man.
Yeah, I usually look at the Gildan 2000s because they're cost effective and people usually are looking for, especially in the school, they don't want to spend a lot of money.
I want a fundraiser too.
Yeah, and just in general, I think like most printers will say that
print
their
well.
favorite shirt to print on out of all of them is like a 5,000 or a 2,000.
And that's weird. Like I don't mind printing on a lot of other things. Like my personal favorite shirt is probably like to wear. I'm wearing right now a 6210. Like it's just comfortable for me. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
The next level ones. But like I will wear just about anything. I love the comfort colors, the 1717. Like that's
I'm wearing a Black Dog in Australia. Shout out to them.
I love that shirt.
They sent me and Dylan. You see the back is a full like bluey rip.
But that one,
the middle is like a black dog. It's the best.
Yeah.
And he sent a big package from Australia for Dylan and me of shirts, and he's the first one to print. My favorite's the 3023. He's the first one to print on it for me.
Yeah, I like those shirts a lot, but I can't sell them here because people don't want to pay for it. And so that's always like, like if I want one, I'll just buy a handful of them and use them for myself.
Well, Shamus, I want to say thank you very much for taking the time out of your day and showing us this shop. I think it's amazing. I think what you guys are doing is like so cool. And I want to swear a lot right now. I just want to say how fucking cool it is.
Careful, you're on speaker now.
But in general, I think what you guys are doing is super good. I would like to see if you can look into like
some sort of accreditation
thing. I think it would be awesome. I don't think you need to get permission from anybody. I think you guys just do it, and it's something that students can walk away with.
Has any ideas in the future? Like I would love to hear it.
Email me and we can work on it together. We can work on something for you.
But anyway, thank you very much, Shamus. Appreciate you, and I hope you have a great day, man.
Yeah, hope you guys do too.
Yep. Later, dude.
Thank you.
Bye.
See ya.